I called my son to tell him his father just died, and he said, "Can we talk next week? Cassandra really needs her spa weekend." That was the moment I realized I hadn't just lost a husband. I'd lost a son, too. This isn't a loud revenge story. It's the kind that simmers in silence until it writes you out with one quiet signature. Let me tell you how it started. Raymond died on a Wednesday morning. The house smelled like bacon and cheap coffee creamer, the kind I always got wrong. He was mid-joke, sitting at the kitchen table, teasing me like he had for 45 years. "If I drop dead drinking this powdered nonsense, it's on you, Mildred," he laughed, tapping his spoon against the mug. 2 seconds later, he stopped mid-sentence. His eyes widened, the spoon slipped, and then silence. I screamed. I called his name. I dropped the butter knife I was holding and lunged across the table. But he was already gone before my knees even hit the tile. 45 years. 4 decades of love. Sunday crossword puzzles, late-night weather reports, and shared grocery lists, all gone in one shallow breath. And when I picked up the phone to call our son Spencer, he didn't answer at first. Then, finally, "Mom, can we talk later? Cassandra booked this spa weekend months ago. She really needs this." He didn't ask what happened. He didn't say, "I'm sorry." Just, "We'll call next week." I sat there holding the phone like it had bitten me. You spend your whole life believing that love returns in the end, that if you give your best years to someone, your husband, your child, they'll be there when it counts. But sometimes all you get back is silence. I didn't cry. Not yet. The grief hadn't settled into tears. It had turned into something colder, quieter, like my bones had learned how to grieve without making a sound. This isn't the kind of revenge story people expect. There's no yelling, no slam doors, just a woman who gave everything, and finally noticed no one was holding anything for her in return. That night, I sat at the edge of our bed on his side and waited for the loneliness to get tired and leave. It didn't. And deep in that quiet, I felt it rising in me. This time, I wouldn't call again. This time, I'd be the one who disappears. The house felt wrong that morning. It was the day of the funeral, and everything was too quiet, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down my black blouse, and stared at a face I barely recognized. Not because of age, but because of the hollowness behind my eyes. Raymond should have been buried with his family beside him, but our son wasn't coming. He hadn't called to confirm. He hadn't even texted. And when I tried to check in the night before, his wife Cassandra answered with a breezy laugh and said, "Spencer's still thinking about it. We already booked the weekend package and they don't refund last minute. You understand, right?" No, I didn't understand, but I said nothing. I just hung up and sat on the edge of the bed. Later that morning, I stood at the cemetery, gripping the edge of the podium like it was the only thing holding me upright. People I hadn't seen in years came up and whispered things like, "Raymond was such a good man. So sorry for your loss." But they all looked behind me like they were waiting for someone else to appear. I heard them, soft questions. "Where's Spencer? Did his flight get delayed?" One of Raymond's old friends leaned close and muttered, "I thought your boy would be here first thing." I just nodded. I didn't say what I wanted to, that my son had chosen eucalyptus oil and a massage table over saying goodbye to his father. When I got home, I poured a glass of wine and sat in Raymond's armchair, trying not to think. But that never works, does it? I opened my phone just to feel close to something, and that's when I saw it. A photo. Cassandra, in a silk robe holding a mimosa. "Best birthday ever, spa life with my love," the caption read. It had been posted at the exact moment I was giving Raymond's eulogy. If you're watching this and you've ever been made to feel like your love didn't matter, like your absence was easier for someone than your presence ever was, tell me below. I know I'm not the only one. That night, I stopped hoping he'd call, because hope only works when both people still care, and I wasn't so sure anymore. Grief has a sound. People always think it's crying or screaming, but the worst kind? It's the silence that shows up when everyone else goes home. That first night after the funeral, I sat in our kitchen with one glass of wine and two empty chairs. Raymond still pushed out like he'd just stepped away. And the one Spencer never sat in. There were no more casseroles coming. No more, if you need anything, let us know. Just me, a quiet house, and the echo of a life that used to be full. I don't remember falling asleep, only that I woke up sometime after 2 a.m., still in my funeral dress, clutching a throw pillow like it could hold me together. My chest was tight, not just with sorrow, but something sharper, something like suspicion. Raymond was never a secretive man, 45 years of shared bank accounts, shared everything, but that day, something his old co-worker Brian had said wouldn't leave me. He mentioned helping Spencer out lately, said it was getting a little stressful. Stressful? We had no debt, no sudden bills. What was stressful? I got up and walked over to the filing cabinet in Raymond's home office, the one he always kept locked but told me, half smiling, if anything ever happens, the spare key's behind our wedding photo, just in case. And there it was, taped right where he said it'd be, like he knew I'd be the one left behind to figure it out. I opened the drawer with shaking hands, neat rows, color-coded folders, tax returns going back 20 years. Then I saw it, a slim blue folder labeled Spencer Transfers. My heart sank. I sat on the floor and opened it, month after month of wire transfers. $2,000, $3,500. One marked Urgent Cassandra Medical, $12,000. My fingers went cold. I'd never known. Raymond never told me. Spencer never asked. $48,000 over 18 months. And not a single thank you. Tell me. Have you ever found out someone you loved was quietly using your kindness as a resource, not a relationship? Because that's what it felt like. Like I'd been turned into a line item, a bank account, a fool. I closed the folder, but something had already opened inside me, something that wasn't ready to forgive. Not this time. I sat there on the floor of Raymond's office, folder still open across my lap, the numbers blurring together. Spencer hadn't just taken the money. He'd taken the trust that came with it. And somehow, that hurt more than all the silence at the funeral combined. I wasn't angry, not yet. That came later. First came the disbelief. How could Raymond not tell me? We shared everything. Grocery lists, jokes, bad knees. And now I was holding evidence that our son had been quietly draining him, month after month. Maybe Raymond wanted to protect me. Maybe he didn't want to admit that Spencer had turned into someone we couldn't reach anymore. But there was one more thing. Tucked between the last two bank statements, folded neatly on yellow legal pad paper, was a letter not addressed to me, to Spencer. This is the second time you've lied about Cassandra's expenses. If I find out you're using the money for something else, I will cut you off completely. I love you, but I won't let you take advantage of your mother's trust. It was dated 2 weeks before Raymond died. He never sent it. I read it over and over until the paper felt soft in my hands. And then I just sat there, letting the weight of it all settle over me. He knew. He saw it happening. And still, he didn't tell me. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat in the same chair where Raymond used to read the paper and stared at the wall. And I realized something I should have seen a long time ago. I wasn't just grieving my husband. I was grieving the illusion that my son ever saw me as anything more than useful. Spencer hadn't just missed the funeral. He'd erased the years we gave him, quietly, bit by bit, with every wire transfer and every skipped call. That's when the fog lifted. The ache didn't go away, but the confusion did. It was no longer about mourning, it was about clarity. Have you ever reached that moment? That quiet second when you realize you're not waiting for them to change anymore? Because that's where I was. No more excuses, no more benefit of the doubt. Next time I saw Spencer, I would be the one asking the questions, and this time, I'd have the answers. Spencer came by 5 days after the funeral. No warning, no flowers, just him, standing on the porch with his hands in his jacket pockets, like he was dropping by after a dentist appointment. Behind him, Cassandra sat in the passenger seat of their SUV, engine still running. That alone told me everything I needed to know. They didn't plan to stay long. I opened the door, but didn't speak. Just stepped aside and let him in. He didn't hug me. He barely looked around. He sat on the edge of the couch like he didn't want to wrinkle his shirt. I poured coffee out of habit. He said no. Then, with the kind of tone people use when they're trying to sound reasonable, he said, "Cassandra thinks I should have come sooner. She's probably right." I almost laughed. Of course she thought that. Of course it took her permission for him to come. Not grief, not guilt, just public relations. I sat down across from him. My phone was already recording in my cardigan pocket because I didn't trust myself to remember everything. And honestly, I didn't trust him not to twist it later. "Did you know your father tried to call you the night before he died?" I asked. His jaw twitched. Then came the excuses. Phone on silent. They were out to dinner. He didn't know anything was serious. I didn't react. Just watched him shrink in his own skin. Then I said, "I found the transfers." That stopped him. Cold. He tried to recover, said they were loans that Dad had offered. I didn't argue. Instead, I handed him the folded yellow letter. Raymond's words never sent. He read it, folded it back up. "He didn't mean that," Spencer said, and in that moment I knew. I wasn't talking to my son anymore. I was talking to a man who had learned how to shape betrayal into justification. I didn't scream. I didn't kick him out. I just stood up and said, "I'll let you know if I need anything." And I meant it. I wouldn't need anything. Because the next morning I called Raymond's old attorney, Alan Clean. By noon, I was sitting in his office with every document I needed. Bank statements, the folder, the letter, the audio file, and a new will. One where Spencer's name didn't appear once. Everything, the house, the stocks, the retirement funds, would go to my granddaughter, Eli, held in trust until she turned 25. No luxury withdrawals, no family pressure allowed, and a clause that if Spencer or Cassandra even tried to challenge it, they'd lose everything. It wasn't revenge. It was protection. And this time, I wasn't going to wait until it was too late. 3 weeks after Spencer's visit, I received a letter. Not from him, from Eli, folded carefully in a pink envelope, written in pencil, with the kind of handwriting that still mixes uppercase and lowercase letters like a secret language between generations. "Grandma, can I come stay with you next weekend? I just want to be where it's quiet." I cried when I read that. Not because I was sad, but because someone still knew where the love in this family lived, and that someone wasn't my son. When Eli arrived, she brought a backpack full of books and a small flash drive she kept tucked in her sock. "I recorded stuff, just in case," she whispered. At first, I didn't understand. Then I opened the files. Recordings, videos, screenshots, conversations between her parents, talking about me, about manipulating the trust, about pushing me into making a mistake they could use later. Eli heard them, and she chose to protect me. I sat on the edge of my bed that night, flash drive in one hand, her little sleeping form curled up in the other room, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Stillness. Not happiness. Not revenge. But a calm so deep, it felt sacred. I sent the recordings to Alan. We added them to the file. But I didn't respond to Spencer or Cassandra when they texted, not when they called, not even when they showed up on my porch 2 weeks later, angry and flailing. "You're tearing this family apart over money," Cassandra spat. I didn't argue. I just looked at Eli, who was watching from the stairs, and said calmly, "Families don't fall apart because someone protected themselves. They fall apart when people stop acting like family." They left in silence, and silence, for once, felt like mine. Eli turned 13 last month. She asked if she could legally add my middle name to hers, said she wanted something permanent that couldn't be erased by anybody. And when she stood in that little courthouse and said her name out loud, Eli Corinne Harper, I knew. I didn't lose everything. I had passed something on, and for the first time in years, I felt chosen. If you're still watching, thank you. Now I want to ask you something personal. Have you ever been erased by someone you loved and had to rebuild in silence? If you have, you're not alone. Share your story below. Someone else might need to see it, because sometimes the quietest voices are the ones that carry us through.